Hello, welcome to Papa Nick's Music. I am, as always, your host, Papa Nick Lewis, and today, yes, we're talking about Brian Wilson. Last week, Brian Wilson passed away. He was 82, almost 83, if he could have just held out a little longer. And this is obviously a huge blow to those of us who love pop music, who love American pop music, who love American pop music of the latter half of the 20th century, who love American pop music of the 60s. I mean, in videos before that I've posted where I've talked about the Beach Boys, I've made clear time and time again that I think Brian Wilson is the preeminent American composer of the latter half of the 20th century. I've said it before, the first half of the century belongs to George Gershwin, but the back half of the century belongs to Brian Wilson. I'm a huge fan of Brian Wilson. I'm a huge fan of the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys are one of the components of my personal musical holy trinity. I'm not sure. I know one of the three legs on this particular stool is the Beach Boys, and I know one of them is the Beatles. I'm not sure what the other one is. It might be Randy Newman. It might be Joe Jackson. It might be the Monkees. I'm not sure. But the Beach Boys and the Beatles, those are locks. And I love the Beach Boys mostly because, I mean, when I was a kid, I loved their radio hits. Fun, 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 and Surfin' Safari, and Little Deuce Coupe, and Surfer Girl, and Help Me Rhonda, and California Girls, and Good Vibrations, right? These are all just, they're fun songs. They deal with relatively light topics, but mostly they are fun. And I loved that when I was a kid. As I have matured, believe it or not, I have matured. My appreciation for the band has extended beyond that. I still very much appreciate them because much of their music is just gleeful. But I also appreciate the musical complexity of what they do, what they did. I appreciate the musicianship in the performances, although that's not always the Beach Boys, but that's a topic for another day. I appreciate the arrangements. I appreciate the songwriting. I especially appreciate the composition, the musical composition. But yeah, I love good hook-filled, catchy, poppy tunes, and the Beach Boys could crank that stuff out. So yeah, I really love the Beach Boys. And so last week, I was kind of thrown when Brian passed, and I knew I wanted to post a video here about it. I'm not shy about posting about the videos. The very first video that I posted in this vein, right, one of my music discussion videos, was about the Beach Boys. That's kind of where I started with this stuff. But I wanted to take a little bit of time, once again, to very briefly try to explain why I like the Beach Boys, why I so much appreciate what Brian Wilson did in his career. But I'm going to take a different tack this time. I am going to talk about it a little bit, but mostly I've put some links in the description of this video to the works that I'm about to talk about. And what I really want you to do is not listen to me yammer about them. I want you to go down to the description. I want you to follow those links, and I want you to listen to this stuff, especially if you've never heard it before. And I've got three links down there. I've got a link to a single, I've got a link to a Beach Boys album, and I've got a link to a Brian Wilson solo project. This is the order of duration as well. The single obviously is the shortest. The Brian solo work is the longest. The Beach Boys album is somewhere in between. So, decide how much time you want to spend on this. I encourage you to listen to all three of them. But your homework today is to drop down to those links and click on at least one of them. Again, if you have not heard these things before. I knew I wanted to put a link to a single in there, and I thought, okay, I want to pick a single that I think exemplifies what I love about the Beach Boys, but I don't want to pick one that I'm confident that virtually everybody has heard. I don't want to pick, for example, Good Vibrations or California Girls or something like that, because you've already heard those. And I don't think when we're talking about music that you're very strongly familiar with, most people, when they listen to that, I don't think they're really listening to it anymore. I think they're kind of following along, but the familiarity with it means that you're not likely to actually stop and closely listen to what's going on. So I'm picking a slightly lesser known single. It's not. I mean, it is a single. It was released. It hit the top 40. It got all the way up to number 20 when it was released in 1965. But it's a song that I'm willing to bet most casual fans of the band today are not necessarily familiar with. And that is the single from 1965, "The Little Girl I Once Knew." I love this song. I love the arrangement of the instrumentation. I love the orchestration of it. I love the performances. I'm pretty sure that's Carol Kaye playing that bass. And I love Carol Kaye. She played with a pick. I love a bassist who plays with a pick. But when you listen to this, it's got. I mean, it's a pop tune. You're listening. You can tell it's a pop tune. It's got an introduction with a little bit of a riff. It's got a verse, chorus, a little bit of an instrumental section, and then we fade out on repeated choruses. Right? I mean, it is a pop tune, but it is so not a pop tune as far as a hit single, especially when you think about the '60s. The melody is distinct. I don't know that I'd call it catchy. I think the tune in the chorus is catchy. I don't think the verses are catchy, but I love them. This is not a criticism, but just as a very minor point, the song is going along. It's got a nice steady tempo. 2 years went by and I saw her. Now I'm gonna try for her. Dum 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 dum. She's not right. You've got this gap, the end of the verse, but before the chorus starts, you've got almost 2 full measures of silence. Dum dum da dum. No, let's try that again. Dum dum da dum dum da dum dum. She's not the little. I mean, it's amazing that you would have that much silence in a song that you are releasing for radio airplay. I love it. I love the song. I love the arrangement of it. The lyrics are light. There's not a lot of depth to it. There are a whole bunch of pop songs along the lines of, when I first saw her, she was too young for me, and so I wasn't attracted to her. But now that she's grown up, hubba hubba hubba, right? And we can debate the ethical merits of the viewpoint, but I'm not paying attention to the lyrics. I mean, I'm listening to the music, and the music on "The Little Girl I Once Knew" is fantastic. So, first thing I'm recommending, first link in the description, is the single "The Little Girl I Once Knew." Now, if we're talking about albums, if we're talking about a Beach Boys album, again, more peach tea this week. Again, I want to recommend an album that I think a casual listener might, I was about to say casual friend, a casual listener might not be overly familiar with. I mean, the popular favorite for me to put in here, if you want to know why I like Brian Wilson, then you should go listen to Pet Sounds. Everybody's going to recommend Pet Sounds, but I'm not recommending Pet Sounds today. I mean, don't get me wrong, fantastic album. I strongly recommend it. But the one I'm going to recommend is 1965's The Beach Boys Today. I apologize for the quality of the vinyl. This is a really battered, cheap vinyl copy that I got so I could have it on vinyl. When I listen to it on CD, but I like holding up the vinyl. The Beach Boys Today is a good album to listen to if you're trying to wrap your head around what the Beach Boys did, what they accomplished, what they were like in the 60s. Okay, because in the '60s we've got two distinct phases to the Beach Boys' career. We've got fun, fun, fun. I get around, little Deuce Coupe. 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Three chords and a cloud of dust. I mean, fairly typical pop music. Now, it's fun pop music. It's three chords and a cloud of dust, but there are three chords that are usually in a particularly odd key. This is not. They're not cranking out Louie Louie, although they did a cover of Louie Louie. This is not standard garage band stuff, but still, yeah, three chords and a cloud of dust. And then the back half of the '60s, they're much more innovative, much more experimental in what they do, both in terms of the types of songs that they write, but more in terms of what kind of instrumentation they use, how they're arranging. Are we sticking to guitars, two electric guitars, a bass, and a drum kit, maybe a piano, or are we branching out and we've got flutes and flugelhorns and some guy in the back thwacking on a milk bottle with a wooden spoon? I mean, you've got all sorts of weird shit going on in when you get into the latter half of the '60s. And Beach Boys today has both of those. We've got the good pop from the early half. We've got Do You Want to Dance, Good to My Baby, Dance, Dance, Dance. Oh my God, Dance, Dance, Dance might as well have been recorded 2 years prior. Side one, it's what they did for the first couple of years. It's pop. It's easy to listen to. It's fun. It's going to make you happy. Side two, though, is introspective. Side two, the music becomes a little more complex, a little more intricate. The arrangements are a little more delicate, a little more diverse. The subject matter of the songs also a little bit more reflective. We have songs like Please Let Me Wonder, I'm So Young, Kiss Me Baby, She Knows Me Too Well. I mean, oh, that's wonderful. The only thing about this album that you don't want to listen to is the final track, the ultimate track, Bull Session with the Big Daddy, which is it's an interview with the guy. It's crap. Don't listen. There's no need to listen to that. So we trim that off. We've got a good, 35 minutes worth of music on this. And that's a rough guess. I haven't actually totaled it up. But it's well worth your time. You can listen to this, or if you listen to this carefully, if you're paying attention to the instrumentation, if you're paying attention to the orchestrations, if you're paying attention to the layered vocal harmonies, you're hearing what I love about the Beach Boys. My final recommendation. This video is about Brian Wilson, not necessarily about the Beach Boys. Now, Brian Wilson largely is the Beach Boys. I mean, but as far as their creative spark, their creative drive, but you can also say the Beach Boys are the other members of the band. Musically, they are also Carl, Dennis, Al. Lyrically, definitely, they are also Mike, right? So, I mean, Brian is not the only person who made the Beach Boys work. He's the dominant person. But in his solo career, he's even more the dominant person. And so I wanted to encourage my many, many, many tens of viewers to check out some of his solo work as well. And there are a couple of really good albums in there. His first solo album from the 80s, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that neighborhood. I didn't look it up before I started. Frankly, I don't care. The self-titled Brian Wilson. Mostly decent. It's got a couple of clunkers on it, but it's mostly decent. His early to mid 90s album Imagination, I am very fond of. I think it is a fantastic album. A lot of Brian Wilson fans aren't as fond of that because it was produced by Joe Thomas and has the stink of Joe Thomas all over it, and that's a meaningless criticism to me because I wouldn't know Joe Thomas if he walked in and slapped me in the face. although that would be a good hint as to his identity. So there are lots of good things in there that I could pick out, but what I'm going to pick out this time is, I think, the fairly obvious one, and that is Brian Wilson presents Smile. Very quick story if you're not familiar with the Beach Boys' history. Smile was the album that the Beach Boys were working on after Pet Sounds. It was going to be the next big thing, and it was going to make Pet Sounds look like, you know, well, all of the words that I thought of there are all negative, and it's not that it was going to make Pet Sounds look like dog shit or anything like that, but it was going to be an obvious step up from Pet Sounds. So everybody's excited about it, and then due to a variety of issues dealing with mental health, substance abuse, things like this, Brian stopped recording it, shelved the project, and the band went on from there. And anytime I talk about this, I'm always careful to say there's a bunch of vague issues, including mental health and substance abuse. One of the frustrating things when you're reading things about Brian, about the events, right, the actual history of the band, you always have to take into account the fact that Brian, although I love and respect him greatly, was not consistent in the things that he said in interviews. He wasn't consistent in the things that he claimed, the things that were printed. And so you can't always trust that just because Brian said, well, he just decided it wasn't appropriate music. So there's a lot of confusion in there. It's hard to get these people to speak straight, which is frustrating. But also not my problem. I'm not a historian. But that just means we can't really, we can't really identify the factor that kept it from being released. It was, in all likelihood, a whole bunch of factors. Substance abuse and mental health, those seemed to be the primary drivers of it. Regardless, individual elements of the Smile sessions leaked out, were included on later albums. Therefore, a few albums after Pet Sounds, Smiley Smile, the album that they released, was, reworked and rejiggered portions of the Smile recordings. But every album after that, for a few releases up till probably Surf's Up, had one, maybe two, maybe three songs that were originally recorded in those Smile sessions. So it's not like it's a complete unknown, the Smile album. But bootlegs of the completed album have also been circulating for a long time. But it was never completed in the sense that Brian never finished it. He never signed off on it. What had been released, piecemeal, were different bits and pieces that would potentially have been on the album, but no guarantee that they would have been. There are 3 or 4 different versions of Wonderful floating around out there, for example. The bootlegs of the album, to the best of my knowledge, were mostly compiled takes to show the rough running order, but again, no guarantee. This was not Smile. It's not like Smile was ready to go. It was, they had done all of the mastering. They'd done everything they wanted to do, and it just, Brian called it off right as they were going to press. No, there was still more work to be done. And when Brian started developing a little bit more confidence in performing in his solo career, he was asked a couple of different times to go back, if he was interested in going back and finishing it, and he finally developed confidence enough in the folks that he was working with, specifically with the Wondermints, and even more specifically Darian Sahanaja. God, I hope I said that right. But they were so instrumental in giving Brian Wilson a little bit more confidence that, yes, he did know what he was doing. That they started working on actually finishing this thing, actually trying to piece it together. They brought in Van Dyke Parks, who was the lyricist for it. uh, who helped Brian put some things together, because Van Dyke could remember more of the original plan than Brian could. And so they ended up actually finishing the thing and fleshing it out a little bit to this. And it grew from being an album to essentially being a three-sided album. There are three movements to the final product, and this thing, to me, it's stunning. I love this. I love listening to this thing. I cannot recommend it highly enough. But no, going into it, it's a good solid hour. If you're going to sit down and listen to this thing from start to finish, which is the way you should listen to it, you got to carve out an hour of your time to do it. Again, I've got the link down below, so you can do that. Just know going in, it's going to take you a bit to get through this. Give it a chance. Let it go all the way through. It will give you a chance to see how all of these elements blend together, how they all tie together. This is an extremely cohesive work, and it is magnificent. I love Brian Wilson Presents Smile. So if I want you to hear Brian Wilson the way I hear him, if I want you to hear the Beach Boys the way I hear them, then I want you to listen to The Little Girl I Once Knew, the Beach Boys Today, and Brian Wilson Presents Smile. And again, links are included down below. And that's what I've been thinking about this week. I've been thinking about how much I'm going to miss Brian Wilson. Rest in peace, sir. You will be missed. What have you been thinking about this week? What do you think about Brian Wilson? What do you think about these three options? Do you think there are better options? Drop those notes down below. I always love hearing from you. If you do go down below to drop a note, if you do go down below to check out those links, damn it, I would appreciate it if you'd also consider clicking the like button. And while you're down there clicking that like button, if you've not already done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button as well. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to me, so I very much appreciate it. If you do click the like button, go ahead and click the bell, because, yeah, I don't care. Thanks again for hanging out with me today, and I hope that the rest of your day is pleasant. See you soon.